So I love game development, and over the last few years I've made quite a few projects, 33 to be precise. From a cooperative puzzle platformer to an FTO-inspired Dwarven Mine to a World War II tower defense game. However, most of these projects only make it to the prototype phase, as a new idea pops into my head, shoving the old one aside. But now, that will, hopefully, change, as I plan on developing a game fit for public consumption. And to help me with this, and to provide insight into my dodgy development ways, I've come up with a completely original idea that I'm calling a devlog, which will showcase the creative process from an empty Unity project all the way to me receiving the award for the best game ever. So no pressure, let's get into the game. The game is called Commandonuts, which is a clever play on words made up of commando and donuts, if you didn't get that already. The game is basically Borderlands meets Factorio, in which you will shoot and loot around a food-themed world to get the best gear, level up, fix your town, and most importantly, battle healthy eating habits. The first step of my project was copy and pasting all of my scripts I've written over the years to handle common functions, like movement, health, and then completely rewrite them when I realised they aren't very good. Now, I've got a square that can move around and look at the mouse. The game is almost done, just needs a little bit more work. As it's much easier to develop a game that isn't just squares and circles, I'm going to make some placeholder art that will make it easy to tell which shape is which. The items I'm going to start with are the player, a donut, an enemy strawberry, a gun, some fists, and an item for the strawberry to drop. I do all my game art using Sketchbook, which annoys me every single time I use it, and I've gone for a simple contrasting art style. These sprites will only be temporary for however long it takes me to be bothered to actually make them better, but for now they'll do. I also decided to draw an actual crosshair to replace the green circle because it just looks terrible. Alright, so now it's time to design the player's character structure. It's going to be made up of a number of components, and instead of shoving them all on a single object, it's much better to separate them into different parts to make it easier to work with. Okay, so this is sort of how I'm going to structure the player, with the movement and input on the top level because everything needs to move together. With then sort of the hitbox on one object, the stats in another one. This would be the inventory, the experience, things like that. Sprites and animations, they'll go on another object. And then other is just sort of anything else I haven't really planned on yet. So let's head into Unity and I'll make the starting structure for the player. Okay, so here's a quick mock-up of the player. So I've got the player input using Unity's new input system. I've created a player input actions. I've got the movement and move velocity. So what this does is movement handles the direction and speed, and then move velocity just physically moves it. These can be combined into two things, but this was written for a more generic library I did a while ago. So here's rotate to face, where you sort out all the rotations. So you can sort out the aim rotations, which for this point is the weapon. So every time I move, the weapons will be aimed instead of the whole body. The body to flip is because every time you look left or right, it flips everything. The target transform is the current target, and I've got this event here just to set up, just to say if there's no target, set the cursor to the target, because this could also be used to lock onto enemies or lock onto sort of a point of interest. And we've got a rigid body and a capsule collider here. These are just for the physics, so the movement and the collision. We go into the next object. We've got the health object. I've currently got my health script in here. I don't have any function to die yet. I haven't written any of this. But here is where I can set the current health, and I've also got a health bar, which is another function I've created before, where it's just a simple progress bar that just ticks down. Stats, this is only got a trigger capsule collider so far, but that's the hitbox, and this is going to have the hit detection. I've actually got that. I can add that. And then I can say detection event, health, take damage. And then we've got the visual, which uses a sorting group and draw order. So the draw order simply takes their Y position, so how far up and down in the scene they are, to draw them further away to give that illusion of depth. And the sorting group, what that does is groups every single sprite into a single object to then layer. So you don't have an instance where someone's body is behind an enemy, but their eyes are in front of an enemy, because obviously that doesn't look very good. And then we've got the sprites with the body. I've only got one object so far for this guy, but I do have, if I go to the strawberry, I do have that sort of broken down into multiple different parts. So this is how the player will look eventually. I just haven't got around to drawing that. And then the weapon is these two fists so far, so sprite 1 and sprite 2. Okay, and if we hit play here, we can have a look and see we've got the donut, and he's not rotating. Whoops. Okay, and there we go. The player, so he's looking at the cursor, and it flips every time we go left and right, and we can look up and down with the fists, and that looks pretty good. There's our character done in terms of the movement, the basic structure, and the next thing we're going to move into, I think for next time, is going to be items and the inventory, because that's a huge part of it, and I need to do that sort of early before I can work on anything else. So that will come in the next episode, but I think that for now we've got a pretty good start to a game. That's going to be it for the end of the video, so I hope you enjoyed. This is my first devlog. Hopefully I'm going to be making these fairly regularly, because I really enjoy the development process, and I think it's pretty interesting seeing how everyone works slightly differently. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.